Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session of SHEroes Beyond Internal Audit. I'm Amanda Kwala, and I'll be the moderator for today as we explore the critical role of ethical leadership within the internal audit space. As internal auditors, we have this unique position that is sort of at an intersection of oversight within an organization and strategic influence. It places a responsibility that goes beyond just detecting irregularities or ensuring compliance. We are seen and we should be custodians of integrity, objectivity, and transparency. How we lead as internal auditors, make our decisions, and uphold these ethical principles in the work that we do, it shapes the trust that our stakeholders will place in us, and it also directly influences the reputation and resilience of the organizations that we serve. Today, in this session, we're going to discuss and delve into what it means exactly to lead ethically as internal auditors. We'll go through real-world dilemmas and discuss just how to uphold the highest standards of integrity amidst the complexity and the sometimes blurred lines of ethical leadership and the pressure that we have. We will explore how ethical leadership can not only guide decisions, but also inspire a positive change across an organization. But I won't be alone today. I have three ladies. SHEroes is about promoting and shining a spotlight on the great women that do great things in the internal audit space. So today I'll be joined by Dr. Lethiwe Nzama from the University of Johannesburg. We have Ntombi Mnconywa, who's also from the University of Fort-Hare, and Vuyokazi, Mkwaqa, an experienced CAE. But first, before we get to the serious business of ethics, ethical leadership, I have Ntombi, who's going to help us loosen a bit and have some fun with some icebreaker. Over to you, Ntombi.
Thank you, Amanda. Good morning, everyone. As Amanda just said, before we jump into today's main agenda, we wanted to take a few moments to warm up with some icebreaker questions to set an energetic tone for the rest of the session. Now, on your Teams chat, you will see a live Slido Q&A poll. Please click on Start Q&A. The Q&A tab will be used for interactions with hosts and speakers during the session, and for the icebreaker, we'll be using the polling tab. For each question, please select the most appropriate answer, and then click Send to submit. So let's jump into our first question. If ethics were a flavor of ice cream, which one do you think internal auditors would be? A, balanced vanilla bean with integrity crunch. B, laid back coconut chill. C, rocky road. Or D, all of the above. You can start putting in your answers. Okay, the answer is D. I'm joking. The answer is A. Balanced vanilla bean with integrity crunch. Now let's move on to our next question. Which superhero best represents the traits of an internal auditor's character? This one should be fun. A, the Punisher. B, Captain America. C, the Green Lantern. Or D, all of the above. Please take a moment to choose the most accurate answer. The correct answer is B, Captain America. Great responses so far. Now moving on to question 3. Describe your job as an internal auditor using only emojis. Now let's see how you can summarize your role in a visual way. Okay, the answer is D, all of the above. Because we do detective work, always discovering surprises, and multitasking is what we do best. Here's the next question. Which of the following unethical statements have been made by clients when discussing findings? This one might bring up some interesting reflections on our professional experiences. A, if we fix this now, can you omit it from the report? Or B, what can we do to make this finding go away? Or C, is there any way we can reword it to make it sound less serious? Or D, all of the above? Or E, none of the above? You can start selecting your answers. The answer is D, all of the above, if I can say so myself. Now let's close off our icebreaker with this last question. This is what we call an ethical dilemma. You witness a crime. A man robs a bank but donates the money to the poor orphanage. If you go to the authorities, there's a good chance the money will be returned to the bank, leaving kids in need. What would the ethical thing be to do? Or what would be the ethical thing to do? Sorry for that tongue twister. A, say nothing since the money went to what do you deem as a good cause. B, turn the robber into the authorities. Right is right. Go ahead, be honest. I see some A's, I see some B's. The answer is B. The ethical thing to do would be to turn the robber into the authorities, because right is right. Thank you for your participation. I hope you enjoy the rest of the session. Over to you, Amanda.
Those were interesting questions, Ntombi. I noted that there were some A's in the last question, people who were saying that they would not turn him in. I think it highlights that ethics is not always black and white. But as I said earlier, I have, people experts in this area that are here today to help us navigate and explore this not so simple topic of ethical leadership. First, I have Dr. Lethiwe Nzama-Sithole. Lethiwe is our keynote speaker today. She will take us through, this complex topic of ethical leadership. But Lethiwe, or Dr. Lethiwe Nzama, is a certified internal auditor. She has a PhD in auditing. She is in a number of boards. She's experienced. She's a board member of the Institute of Internal Auditors, amongst other boards that she sits in. She's also a deputy chairperson of the Ethics Committee at the University of Johannesburg. She is also in the Toastmasters Club of Internal Auditors, and she has won a number of awards because of the work that she does. Amongst those awards, she was an Educator of the Year, recognized by the Institute of Internal Auditors in 2022 rather. So I think she is very qualified to help us navigate this topic. And we are so grateful, Dr. Lethiwe, to have you with us today. And over to you. Thank you so much. You are on mute, Doc.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for the introduction. Ethical leadership in internal audit. Is that your reality or is that a dream? Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like to first ask you to use not the chat, but the Q&A section where you reflect on the title of the topic today, Ethical Leadership in Internal Audit. Is that your reality or is it just a mere dream? While you reflect on the Q&A button, let me start greeting all of you. But I would like to give special greetings to Minister, and I'll call him Minister, but it's Mr. Victor Sekele, the CEO of SNG, Grant Anton. I'd also like to pass greetings to the leadership of SNG and staff members. And I would like to pass the greetings to all of you who are leaders in the room. Yes, you are all leaders in your own right. You might be a senior manager, you might be a senior internal auditor, or just an internal auditor, or even an auditing student. You are a leader in your own right. So let's see on Q&A if you have any reflections. Remember, I don't have access to the chat, so I want to hear your view. I've asked questions on LinkedIn last week in terms of, is it important that ethical leaders are present in the auditing function? And majority of people who participated, over 90%, said ethical leadership is paramount in the auditing profession. I just want to see in the room if you can share on how you perceive ethical leadership. I don't see anything yet on the Q&A section. Please don't be shy. I'm a reflective teacher and I'm a typical teacher who I want my people in the room to be active participants and share their views. It's not my show, it's all our show because all of us care about the profession. So feel free to use the Q&A button just to share your view on how you perceive ethical leadership in the internal auditing profession. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to be here and share the cornerstone of auditing profession, which is ethical leadership, because without ethical leadership in our profession, we will not be able to ensure the credibility of our profession. Not only are we charged of giving assurance in governance, risk management, and control, but we are the critical stakeholders, critical partners that need to be relied on by those that we serve. Whether you are serving as a leader in an in-house audit function or an outsourced audit function, we all need to ensure that we adhere to ethical leadership, as it shapes how we are seen and how we do our work as auditors. Today, we don't just safeguard against risk, and Amanda shared that we don't only safeguard against risk, but we are the stewards of integrity, of accountability, and transparency. So let us explore how we as leaders in the auditing profession can ensure that we raise the flag of internal auditing high and with pride and ensure the sustainability of our profession and the greater impact that it will have. Ladies, I still see the Q&A, there's no action. I would like to encourage you to please participate because what we have on the menu, if you can see, we are going to be discussing 3 items where we say ethical and integrity is a cornerstone of ethical leadership within the profession. That our role as internal auditors is to uphold the standards. And I want to see if you are all aware that on the 9th of January 2025, we will be taking in the new standards which will come effective. Are you ready? Are you ethically positioned within your function to ensure that you comply with the updated standards? Also, as a leader, how are you seen by those that you lead? Are you a role model of ethical leadership? Again, needing you to reflect, there are theories that are there that guide on how to carry yourself as an ethical leader. So if you are here today as a leader, irrespective of your ranking in your organization, are you aware of ethical leadership theories that need to be put in place and be applied by yourself? So I'm inviting you again to use the Q&A, which I still see is empty on my side. Please indicate the ethical theories that you are aware of, which you see paramount in ensuring that you lead with ethical standards as a leader. Also, while reflecting on ethical leadership, what qualities do you think are important when one is seen as an ethical leader? Please do not be shy. I see we have over 100 people in the room, so I would really invite you to use the Q&A box just to share with us which ethical theory do you know that is relevant to our profession. Also, please share in terms of the qualities which you think are paramount to be upheld by those who are leading in our profession. While doing that, even though I see, and it's really disappointing because I'm a typical teacher, I did say earlier, that there's no action on the Q&A. I need you to please use your gadgets just to share which theory do you know and which quality do you think is important for an ethical leader to uphold. While you think of that, let me take you through my favorite quote by John Adams, which says, open quote, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and become more, you are a leader." Close quote. Ladies and gentlemen, I see the Q&A. Amanda, I'm not sure with the numbers of we have in the room. There's no interaction yet. So I'd like to encourage colleagues to please share their insight in terms of the ethical theories and the qualities which are important. But let's go back to the quote that I've shared by John Adams, which says, as a leader, you need to enable, you need to inspire, you need to empower those that you lead to become more, to dream more, and to want to learn more. So again, it's time for you to reflect. So you reflect on your role as a leader. Do you think you are the leader that inspires others and enable others to reach where they need to reach their potential? As a leader who aims to be ethical in this profession, you need to embrace humanity. Without humanity, you will be fooling yourself and saying, I'm a leader. As a leader, it's not just being in charge. I see Ntombi shared as asking, do right even when no one is looking. Integrity. Correct, Ntombi. Thank you so much for sharing. I see we also have other posts. Let me just see. There's Kolwane Chauke who was asking people if they're unable to access Q&A to please use the chat. Unfortunately, with the chat, I can't read it, but I believe my colleagues from SHEroes will assist in reading that if possible. But let me continue. As a leader, you would know that you might have capability of leading, but are you able to? Are you aware of your strengths and weaknesses? Are you aware that you need to invest on your development as a leader? So it's not about taking positions. It's about being able to know the responsibility of taking care of those in your charge and serve them. So it's not about it being in charge. It's about the responsibility of serving and taking care of those in your charge as a leader. So you need to be prepared to invest in a development, and you need to know your strengths. As a leader, you need to walk the talk. Remember earlier I said you need to be a role model of how ethical leadership needs to be within the auditing profession. There are theories that I've asked earlier for colleagues to share, and I'm going to just list a few just for interest of time. We have utilitarian theory, which says that we judge the majority of people that are affected should be happy, with the minority not being happy. So whatever that decision that you put in place, you ensure that is a better cause of everyone, the best interest of everyone. Majority of people you serve should be in a positive state. Also, we have virtue ethics, which looks at the moral character, where you need to be an honest person, and this is just natural as you are as a leader. We also have ethical relativism in terms of morality, but this is based on culture. And as we know, we are a diverse country. Our cultures differ, so how we embrace ethics might differ as well. There's also a social contract theory where we see as communities, when we come together and collaborate, we have a contract on how to carry each other and embrace ethics. There's also divine command theory, which talks about Christianity. But for our profession, we focus on deontology theory, which is a duty-based ethics. So you have a duty as an auditor to ensure that you follow moral conduct based on rules, regardless of circumstances, regardless of the outcomes. And this theory came from Immanuel Kant, who suggests that you need to act according to the rules that could apply universally. And this applies to our profession, internal auditors, where we need to tell the truth and tell it. And earlier on, we played a game where question 5 was really a dilemma, but right is right. And when we apply deontology theory in terms of ethics, we're saying we need to do the right thing, irrespective of circumstances, irrespective of the consequences that will come with it. And when we look into the auditing profession, we need to uphold professional standards and ensure that we are independent and objective, irrespective of whether we are in-housed, we are out-housed, or outsourced as internal auditors. And as leaders, we need to set the tone of ethical behavior within our auditing functions and also in a wider organization where we are serving. For example, an internal audit leader refused to alter an audit report. And earlier on, when we played the game, question 4 asked in terms of when you're now presenting results to your audit client, there might be questions in terms of, are you able to ignore that finding? Are you able to amend that or maybe remove that from the report? As an ethical leader who comply with ontological ethics, which is the theory, you need to ensure that you maintain objectivity and independence irrespective of circumstances. And there are challenges that can come when you embrace the deontological ethical framework. So as Amanda said in the introduction, that when we are leaders, we might be conflicted in terms of interest. Sometimes you are under pressure, especially when you are in-house as the internal auditor. Even if you are outsourced, you might be getting a contract and there might be threats that your contract will not be renewed if you don't give us a good audit outcome. So it is important that you comply and ensure that you are governed by the deontological ethical framework. There are consequences as well should you not comply. You might be aware of the need for you to comply into the ethics, but you decide not to comply. This will bring some negativity within your organization, even yourself within the profession. There might be loss of trust in the auditing function, which you lead as a leader. You might have an issue with the credibility of your organization being impaired because of the finding that has been reported or misreported. There might be legal repercussions which are put in place. There might be financial losses and penalties because of unethical conduct, which you as an auditor decided to overlook. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope as leaders, you are able to be a role model of those that you lead and the organization as charge. Yes, we are required to be ethical, and the global auditing standards, as I mentioned earlier, has been updated. And the new global auditing standards is coming in place on the 9th of January, 2025. Now, as an ethical leader, you should have already taken a pause to reflect on where you are within your audit function and position yourself to ensure that you are professionally skeptical, that you are professionally and you apply judgment when you do all the audit engagements that you have to do. As a role model, your actions set the tone to the entire organization. And again, reflecting on ontological ethics for the foundation of ethics, you need to ensure that you uphold the auditing standards and ensure independence and objectivity at all times. I'm going to spend some time on the standards later on, but now need you to know that it's important that you safeguard the ethical standing of your auditing function. I just want to see on the chat that I don't see anything on the chat yet because of the access, but on the Q&A, I saw Ntombi is participating, and also Palisa mentioned trust, saying it's one of the qualities which are important for ethical leaders to uphold. 100%, Palisa, I agree with you. Yes, Amanda did introduce and said that when we comply into ethical leadership, when you as a leader want to ensure that you embrace ethics, there might be complexities because as a leader, you lead diverse group of people within the audit function. Also within your organizations, there are different business units that you serve. And all these people have different interests, have different experiences, have different expectation. And this is stakeholder theory, where you say, how do I balance all the interests of the stakeholders that I serve, but remaining ethical at no cost? So in terms of ethics, you need to ensure that you embrace that you are self-assured. There are leaders who struggle to be self-assured because of lack of self-awareness. So as a leader who is determined and interested of holding that role model role of coaching others, you need to ensure that you are self-aware, you have identified your strengths, you've identified your weaknesses, and you know what to do, because right is right, irrespective of what. You must ensure that your auditing function is governed by robust internal controls, aligned with global auditing standards, and any other laws and regulations that govern your organization. Ethical leadership is not about compliance. It's not about the tick box exercise. It's about being adaptable as well, building trust and credibility. And our colleague Balisa shared that earlier, that one of the qualities of an ethical leader is for you to be able to build relationships. If you cannot work in silo as an internal auditor, whether you're a leader, a junior auditor, or senior internal auditor, even a student who's an internal auditor, collaborating with others is important. The strong leader ensures that they are able to meet their clients' needs. They're able to collaborate, but you cannot collaborate if you're not prepared to get feedback either from your subordinates or feedback from your clients. So you should be open to negotiations, but remember to embrace ethics. You should be able to check in with your clients, check in with your subordinates, and also embrace respect. When you operate with integrity, trust will be earned because you show people how you are and they can trust you and they can be vulnerable with you as a leader. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're not living in a bubble. We know that when we embrace ethics, there might be complexities, but you need to position yourself so you can be seen as a strategic partner. Yes, a strategic partner. We are not policing. We are not seen as enemies based on how we carry ourselves as leaders in the internal auditing profession. Ethical leaders need to ensure that they are determined, that deliberate, they're intentional of how they need to be seen and received by others. We must move beyond the traditional role of auditors where you need to only find faults. You need to be the value proposition of adding value to the organization, where you improve the processes, where you are trusted as a stakeholder, a trusted partner who is not an enemy. Our role as internal auditors, especially when we lead internal auditing functions, is to ensure that we guide, we advise, and we offer insight. We need to be thought leaders within our organizations because we are involved in different parts of the organizations. We not only come in and review documents and give findings, but we need to be trusted when new things need to be developed, when there are new projects. They need to call you and say, Amanda, we know you are an expert in this, or we would like to hear your view on this particular role or project that we want to do. And also within your small divisions, you might be leading 2, 3 people, or even 20. Most leaders, they don't understand the privilege that they have, and especially when they want to be seen as ethical leaders. You have a priority, and you have a privilege of being able to mentor those that you lead. So as a leader, be intentional on how you want to show up for your organization, for your unit. You need to be a trusted leader. You need to ensure that you don't only assign tasks and review reports. When you come into the office as a leader, how do you show up? Do you know? Maybe indicate on the chat box. How often as a leader, please reflect on the quick Q&A, or maybe on the chat our colleagues will share when they summarize later because I can't see the chat box. Just reflect on how do you think you are seen. Are you seen as a strategic partner, not by the organization only, but by the people that you lead, your direct people, your subordinates, so those who you do performance reviews with? How do they see you? Do they trust you? Do you create the environment which is vulnerable, where they can tell you whether they've made a mistake, or maybe they don't know, where they can say, help me, I'm confused? Or maybe do you even induct your people when you put them into positions, or you just give them tasks and wait for the outcome, hoping that they must do it, they have a qualification from wherever, therefore they should do the work? How are you as a leader? Do you come and say, how can I help you as my subordinate? Which resources do you need? And what problems do we need to resolve together? It is important that when you lead with integrity, you not only develop future leaders, but you enable others who are currently there to promote innovation and ensure that they are trusted as well and they trust you so that you can better serve your organization and all of you can be trusted partners of the organization. So how are you seen and how are you showing up as a leader? So when we look at internal controls, which I've mentioned earlier, which the key tool in shaping the ethical culture in COSO framework is mostly the control environment. And who plays in that environment? The control environment is where you are a leader, as you are taking care of those that you are in charge of. Not being in charge, but taking care of those you are in charge of because you have the responsibility to serve those that have been allocated to you. Create conducive environment, have empathy. And if you go back to the theories that I've mentioned earlier, there's a care ethics theory where it involves about being a parent and nurturing your young ones. So as an ethical leader, you need to embrace care ethics theory as well, where you need to care, have empathy, have compassion in decision making. Not that you have to be naive, of course, but you need to ensure that you embrace humanity. There might be dilemma where someone is off for maybe 3 months or 6 months because of family member is sick at home, they can't deliver, or they themselves are sick. But now, how do you then balance it? You can address it, but don't forget to be human in between. Avoid mistakes of making assumptions. Most leaders make assumptions and also get hot-spotted, especially when you join a new team and you are a leader. Then someone else briefs you and identify who are the problem makers within an organization. You find leaders losing the opportunity to connect with their subordinates, losing opportunity to connect with their audit client because they have already been hot-spotted into the enemies of the organizations, within their teams or outside the team. So please ensure that you remain ethical, you are independent thinker, you have professional skepticism and judgment, and you are independent irrespective of what circumstance. Encourage feedback from your subordinates, as that builds trust and they can come back to you when they're in trouble, even when they have issues with the client. Ask yourself again, how am I coming across as a leader within my organization? I'll pause now and ask you to use the Q&A just to share, how do you think you show up as a leader within the audit function, within your audit function, within different business units, outside the organization, if you are outsourcing your internal auditing profession? How are you showing up? Are you easily bribed? Can people just tell you anything? Or can people trust you with critical information and know that you will not misuse the information? Control environment ensures that leaders are role modeling how the audit function needs to be. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I would like to ask you to reflect, just take a moment, just reflect on the summary of auditing standards which are coming into effect on the 9th of January 2025. And I hope and I believe all the leaders in the room are aware of the standards. Again, you have repositioned yourself. Maybe your methodology has adjusted. The quality assurance has been done to ensure you comply, or you have just reflected and done maturity assessment or where you are within your organization. Let's now focus on the second domain, because that's the core of our presentation today. There are 5 domains in the new global auditing standards. There are 15 principles and 52 standards. Here with the second domain, which talks about ethics and professionalism. That is important. As a leader, as an internal auditor, irrespective of your rank, even as a student, you need to ensure that you understand the domain too, and you embrace the 5 principles that are here, where you need to demonstrate integrity. I've touched on that. Maintain objectivity, demonstrate competency, meaning you have to upskill irrespective of your ranking, and also exercise due care, professional care, and maintain confidentiality. If you are able to maintain confidentiality, you'll be a trusted partner, as explained in the previous slide. Also, when you communicate results with your stakeholders, even within your unit, within the audit function, before the results goes to the client, you might have the briefing that you'll do with your subordinate, with your subordinates. If they don't know how to communicate the results, you again, as a mentor, as a coach, as a leader within the auditing function, how do you mentor those that are going to be presenting? How do you allocate resources to ensure that your communication is uplifting, you don't critique, and you lose the interest of your subordinates when you present results to the audit client, even if it can be difficult, even if it can be unfavorable or unpopular? Are you courageous enough for you to stand and say, these are the findings, these are the recommendations, and this is the way forward? Or are you that leader that is able to just sugarcoat information when you communicate? The new standard asks that we also, when we manage our teams, that we plan strategically. So we don't just do things. There must be an audit strategy. There should be an audit plan. You must manage resources correctly. And when we embrace ethics as leaders, when we say managing resources, are you offering support to your subordinates that is adequate? When you see gaps, how do you address the gaps? Are you creating that conducive environment where you say, if someone is struggling, they can say, I need this course, I'm struggling with this, and you provide the resources accordingly. And if someone is off sick for a long time, which results in another party working overtime, how do you manage that? Ethics is involved. Yes, there might be dilemmas, but it's important on how you manage the audit function as a leader. Also, you need to communicate effectively. I've already shared that. That is important. And also, colleagues, the quality of your work is important. And now with the new global auditing standards, there's a focus on how quality needs to be put in place. It is important that as a leader, you ensure that you are independent, there's objectivity, there's professionalism in all that you do. And when you manage the auditing function, you embrace integrity in all aspects. Again, communicating results, ensure integrity is in place, and you act in courage. So yes, courage is important, and I know it can be daunting, and it's also be difficult for you to measure courage. But remember, you are a leader. When you role model courage, when you have courageous conversation to confront issues, be tactful as well, be sensitive, embrace empathy, but do not sugarcoat things. When things need to be said, they need to be said, but check whether it's the right time, it's the right place, and how you share as well. Will you leave the person empty, or will you leave them with the pride of being a human being, even though there was a courageous conversation which has been discussed? Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I need you to reflect again and also note that ethical leadership is the heartbeat of the auditing profession. Without ethics in the auditing profession, everything is flawed. As leaders, it is our responsibility to create the environment where ethics is not just encouraged, but is expected. This involves creating spaces of courageous conversations, as I've mentioned earlier, building trust, upholding the highest standards of integrity, irrespective of the consequences or whether maybe you lose your paycheck or maybe you lose your bonus. If there should be a courageous conversation, let's have it. The future of auditing profession is not just about dictating problems. No, you're not police people. You are leading organizations with critical success, with ethical success, because you need to position yourself as a trusted strategic partner. By leading with integrity, we not only protect the organizations we serve, but we uphold the reputation of our profession. Let us be ethical leaders who set the tone, who walk the walk, who can create trust and be held accountable for our actions. Yes, ethics is not easy, but as we said, right is right, irrespective of the circumstances. Ladies and gentlemen, Let us be ethical and reflect again on the quote that I've shared earlier, where you as a leader should inspire others to do more, to be more, and become more. Ethical leadership shapes the future. What about you? Are you that leader? I don't know. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Lethiwe. You're saying right is right. And I noted there were some key phrases throughout your presentation as you were talking about ethics. You mentioned that trust came up a lot. You spoke about trust. You spoke about ethics being the cornerstone of our profession. You spoke about a conducive environment where this can happen. And I am proud to tell you, Dr. Lethiwe, that everything you spoke about is encompassed in our company's values. We have values, we call them clear values. They are all, the clear is acronyms for various virtues. But I think the one that is on the spotlight today is responsibility. So what that is like one of those values. Responsibility speaks about influence, because you said we are all leaders. It doesn't matter what level you are at. So this value as well concurs with you. It says you have a responsibility, you influence wherever you are. And that is important. If we are aware of the influence we have, you know, that just take that responsibility of being ethical where you are, then the culture will be in the whole organization. But we need to rope in the other guests in the conversation. I have two other ladies that have come to discuss and delve into this conversation. I have Miss Ntombi Mnconywa. Miss Ntombi Mnconywa, you can come in the camera so that we can all see you. Miss Ntombi Mnconywa is also a lecturer at the University of Fort Hare. She's a chartered accountant, a certified director. She is in various boards, audit and risk committee chairperson of various public entities. In the academic space, we were having a conversation the other day, and she said, you know, I have produced many chartered accountants. You could tell that she's passionate about this. She has masters in accounting sciences, and like I said, she's a chartered accountant. And I'm thinking she's going to give us, you know, valuable insights, because she has really good experience. Because Dr. Lethiwe spoke about the environment, which means the tone at the top. As people who are charged with governance, as board members, as audit committee members, I want to hear your thoughts, Ntombi, about ethical leadership, because organizations, you know, are giving you this responsibility that come and embed this culture of ethical leadership. I want to hear your thoughts. What has been your experience? In fact, what is ethical leadership according to you?
Thank you, Amanda. Good morning to everyone in the webinar. I'm grateful to SNG Grant Thornton for this opportunity. All right. So maybe let me start from this angle, Amanda. Let me appreciate the presentation by you, Dr. Lethiwe. That was very insightful. I think she really covers all the various key aspects of ethical leadership or ethics and professionalism. But I want to maybe start by saying, just tapping in from where she's talking about establishing safeguards for ethical behavior. To say to internal auditors in the room, now wearing the cap of the board and the Audit and Risk Committee, that we appreciate the work that's done by internal audit, and that work actually is valued a lot by the board, by the ARC. But what I've observed really is that you'll find out that the people from the different professions, so like your legal people, your IT people in our committees, actually really trust the views of internal audit. So it's like everything must be referred to internal audit for that assurance. Yeah, and then you'll know with us then as chartered accountants, we always have that bit of professional skepticism, but there is kind of a lot of value and trust that's put by the governance structures on the work of internal audit. So with that said, I think I want to really to ask the internal auditors in the room to think about this aspect. We have all the theory that relates to ethical leadership. We have all the information in front of us. But when you're looking at, so we say ethical leadership, so you have the leadership. So firstly, if you're starting from the leadership side, can we look at this angle that says effective leaders, actually creative visionaries. So the fact that you are a leader, it means that you are a visionary. And so if we are creative visionaries, then it means all the time we kind of try to find those creative ideas that will lead our organizations to new directions. So could this issue of ethical leadership be one of those that the internal auditors need to creatively think about it? So I do hear the statement that says right is right, because the next question will be, right in whose eyes? What is your definition of right? What is your basis for right? So, but then you know that as leaders, that you will always have within you that voice, that quiet voice that tells you the way to go as a leader. And also, I think I like Lethiwe saying when he says that a leader is a person that has people following her because they want to. So I want us to emphasize that last part. We're following you because we want to. And the other part that we must keep remembering is that if you are a leader, you are the person that embodies the why of the firm. So if you are in an internal audit firm, the why of that firm should be embodied in you. So when as organizations, we kind of buy into your firm, we're not really about what you do, but what connects us is why you do what you do. So that why as a leader, to you as a leader, becomes very important.
Okay.
And so what does that then says then when you then take that to ethics? So from the side of ethics, I interpret ethics as a behavior. So I like it also when you're looking at the dictionary or English dictionary, it will refer to that as a behavior. And it becomes then a high risk to internal auditors because our behaviors, that my right or my yes and my no is influenced by my beliefs. And so if we're tapping in from like your neuroscience space, they will talk about the limbic brain, and that brain that's responsible for the feelings, the trust, the loyalty. That brain, that is the one that makes us, or that is responsible for our human behavior. So
Okay.
that brain does not listen, does not accept language, but it is driven from inside out. So the question is, if then, as an internal audit firm, you have your why as your mission, and then you have your values as what drive what you do, how do you instill those values to your teams such that everyone, no matter where they come from, they are able to unlearn some of their old beliefs that don't help the organization and learn the new beliefs that help the organization? And if then those are embodied within them and become their behavior, even when they do things in their own corners and have to take decisions, then those decisions will be driven by those ethical values of the organization.
Okay. You're taking it deep. We're now going to neuroscience, and yeah, this is a serious topic. But I don't want us to go very far without including the other guest, Vuyokazi Mkwaqa. Vuyokazi is on the other side. You are on the oversight. Vuyokazi is in practice. She is the internal auditor. You are saying you value the input and the work that they do. And you are saying right is not necessarily always right. In whose eyes you are saying that? I'm sure Vuyokazi has been in this position because she has been an internal auditor for over 20 years. Vuyokazi Mkwaqa, please come through, Ms. Mkwaqa. Vuyokazi has been a head of internal audit at various institutions. She has experience in external and internal audit over 20 years, and I'm sure she has seen it all. So I want to hear her perspective. You are saying right is not always right. I'm sure she has met many ethical dilemmas. We were chatting, Vuyokazi and I, the other day about, we said, in fact, we should use that topic as one of the themes that we'll discuss further in one of these webinars. Internal audit serving two masters. There's the audit committee, and then there's management. And that is the space Vuyokazi is in and has been throughout her career. Ms. Mkwaqa, the audit chair, the board member, Ms. Mnconywa, is saying right is not always, or in fact, she's saying in whose eyes, what standard are you using to say right is right? With your experience, the work that you have done, I'm sure you've got stories for days about this topic of ethics and the dilemma sometimes that you have. What is ethical leadership according to you?
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you to my fellow panel members, and thank you, Dr. Lethiwe, for such an insightful and thought-provoking presentation. Actually, this topic kind of, I don't know, it makes me laugh or it makes me sad, but it's quite of interest to me, as Amanda just said, that I'm on the other side. So I work with the likes of Ms. Mnconywa. So I know how it is to be in an ethical dilemma. However, I think I would like to first tap into what the presenter said in terms of leadership, that it is not just about theoretical or about what we technical expertise. It's about like how you implement it, how you live it, how you do demonstrate it. How do you make sure that you set a tone that reverberates throughout the organization? Because speaking it and really reading about it, it's something else. But having to live it and balance the the expectations of all your stakeholders. Being an internal auditor is a very difficult job. I think we were not really advised well when we chose careers. We thought it's going to be such a beautiful position where you just, tell people what to do, but it's very, very difficult. It requires maturity. It requires emotional intelligence. It requires, you must know your story. You must always be on top of your game because you'll always be challenged. And if people cannot challenge you on a personal level, they challenge you intellectually. So it means that you have to know your story. I was also thinking, as Ms. Mnconywa was talking, to say, everybody looks up to us. Everybody looks up to us for solutions. And that can kind of also create conflict because you still becomes a time to find yourself being persuaded to be a player and you're still going to be a referee, So for me, ethical leadership is about really leading self when no one is watching. It's very embodied in the values, like you just mentioned, the values of SNG Grant Thornton. I think a lot of companies are drawing their values now around ethics. And I've seen that even the new standards are very much more focused on ethics. Even if you look at the King, ethics comes like very, very strong. If you look at even the position or the posture of the country and the challenges of the country, ethics now, ethical leadership becomes a strategy. So it's no longer about compliance, it's a strategy. We become, like we take it upon ourselves to lead. I love when we said, when one of the speakers said, as auditors, you are a leader, regardless of the position. You are a game changer. You lead self. You are a coach. You are a mentor because you'll be shocked that you find yourself being a mentor to the same board that you think that they are your bosses. But you coach, you mentor your clients. And I always make an analogy to say, if you're an auditor, you are not a thermometer only that gauges the temperature. You are a thermometer, then you are a thermostat that should change the temperature in the room. So if you get into an organization and you can see that things are not what you think they should be, then you must lead in the front. You must show how you want things to change. So I believe that ethical leadership is about yourself, more than anything, yourself, the values and what you believe in and what is your moral compass. So for me, that is ethical leadership. And it knows no position, it knows no professional designation, but the fact that you are an auditor, you should be, yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Vuyokazi. I'm thinking that there has to be, yes, you're talking about moral compass and the individual and all that. But then Miss Ntombi spoke about we are all different. We are all from different backgrounds, so we have different moral compasses, So in essence, there has to be some framework that we are going to work around. And I made an example that in our organization, we use those values as a framework, that this is what is expected. It doesn't matter what background you are coming from. So these are the values that are expected. And I see that as this enabling environment. It starts with that. This is who we are. And then we will have the people that are charged with governance, as I said, the board, the audit committees, and senior management. I'm going to come back to you, Vuyokazi. In your experience, are audit committees enabling you, and I'm not talking about you specifically, I'm just saying, in your experience, are they assisting you when it comes to ethical leadership to help you? Because you cannot do this alone as internal audit. And you also mentioned another thing, you guys, about the expectation gap, because sometimes management expects internal audit to be the ones that are doing work that management is supposed to do. There has to be some balance. But what is the role of the governing bodies, the senior management, the tone at the top, as we like to say, in ensuring that the culture is embedded in an organization?
Thank you, Amanda. I could not overemphasize the importance of the tone at the top, especially the board, when it comes to supporting internal audit. The internal audit is an extended arm of the board. We assist the board to discharge its oversight role. And therefore, if there's no support from the board, then you are definitely sabotaging the internal audit function. It means that it cannot be effective. However, I always believe that it takes two to tango. Therefore, it means that you, as also the chief audit executive of the organization, you should definitely do a stakeholder kind of analysis and definitely understand what each stakeholder requires from you. And the board, how to position yourself such that the board is able to assist you. Because sometimes the board will want to assist you, but they cannot be involved in the daily operations. So it means that you have to strategically position or align yourself to the board and understand the board's expectations. And sometimes, unfortunately, in my experience, is that what I've seen is that not always, as the king always suggests, that the board must be, it must have a diversity of skills within the board so that they can complement, but it's not always the case. Sometimes we find that there's oversubscription of a particular skill than the other. And especially if there's a lack of risk and audit skills, then as the chief audit executive, you are in trouble because they'll never even understand what you're trying to do. They don't even never understand even your governance. So you have to even now take a step backward and teach and coach the same board that you're going to be accountable to say, this is how I'm supposed to assist you. This is what is in your terms of reference, in terms of what you accountable for in the organization, and I want to assist you. So you have to position yourself. You have to know what they need, because other board members, unfortunately, not necessarily the one that we have in the panel, other board members don't understand governance. They don't know how they find themselves there, and they don't know really what is it that they want from you. If I like it as the chief audit executive, I might give them nothing, and they'll never challenge what I submit to them because I'm the one who knows better. But as an ethical leader in you as the CAE, you know exactly what you're supposed to provide, even if they don't ask. They don't have to ask for submissions. You know exactly the matter of the issue of transparency. So once you do that, they start to trust you. I had an experience of such in my previous career, where it was more academics in the board because it was in the academic space. So obviously there are certain things that they did not understand, but they are very smart people, but they were more than welcome to be taught and to be coached to what they're supposed to do in terms of their terms of reference. And if you can do that, you kind of win their trust. Now they see that you've got nothing to hide, because now you're trying to show them who is Vuyo, and what you believe in. So I do believe in the support of the board a lot, but also I also understand also that, like you said, there's ethical dilemmas, because most of the time, what the board wants and what management wants is not the same. Management have got they're chasing the clean audit because it comes with their KPIs by hook or by crook, they want it. And on the other side, the board wants the reality of what is happening in the ground. They're also interested in the clean audit, but they want it on merit. So do you assist management and hide things? Do you really assist management to lay bare all the control problems, and you assist them in building a right control environment? It's not easy. It's nice to talk about it, but it's not easy when you have to implement it.
You're bringing another dimension altogether now, that of clean audit versus, controls. And I want to bring in Ms. Mnconywa, because you were talking about the board and audit committees and the influence that they have, that sometimes they must be willing and open to learn as well if there is a skill that they are lacking in. We also have questions on the chats. People are are writing questions, we'll look at them. But before we go to those questions, I want to bring in both Dr. Lethiwe and Ntombi on this question of the importance of sponsorship from the governing bodies, from management, the tone at the top. And Vuyokazi is saying sometimes, you are torn between. So there was a conversation in some space, and so this person was saying, maybe we should be looking at other measures now. How come organizations have clean audits, but there's still service delivery issues? You have a clean audit, but you have not delivered. So we should, as professionals in this space, look at other measures, of the performance of an organization. Your thoughts, Ms. Mnconywa?
Thanks, Amanda, for the question. Yes, I do. I do agree with what Vuyokazi has been sharing and putting forward. However, I do want to say that now there is a move. So most boards now and organizations, with all the introduction of the Social and Ethics Committee, there is kind of like an intentional move to the creating the organizational culture, which is like ethical, an ethical culture. So the board is focused on that. I think what really I have observed as one of the key issues that could compromise internal audit at some point in time. It's the issue of, so you will have, as the audit committee, approve the plan for internal audit. But remember then, when you approve the plan, there's also another opportunity of having the ad hoc projects that come up. They could be from whistleblowing report. They could be any decision maybe that was made by management which did not support the organization. Now you find out that then because the ad hoc projects are kind of like money generators more than your normal plan, then the internal auditors will kind of focus on the ad hoc projects. And then from that space, then they even get closer to management and what management does. And, when you kind of like now become in this safe space, in this audit team, then to a certain extent, you start then compromising your values as internal audit. And when you look at the tone of the board and the ARC, there's that gap that has been created, like internal audit is now functionally reporting to management, or they're still reporting to the ARC. It's because now there is another angle now that the internal auditors are looking into, these targets that we keep talking about, that there will be targets that we need to meet. So it becomes important that internal auditors in their own mindset as well realize that we don't have, there's no shrink in the pie. The pie is enough for everyone, because once we start having that open mind that says there's no scarcity, there is plenty, we just need to be creative, we just need to think differently, then the actions will follow such. And then the focus will not necessarily be on getting more, such that you compromise your values as internal audit, because management will always try to find a way of avoiding any findings and appearing clean. But that will not assist the board and the organization, because at the end, when that the work is compromised, the assurance process is compromised, the organization will at the end ultimately go down, and someone will have to account for that. So there is a lot that requires balancing in that space.
Wow. Dr. Lethiwe, I think what Ms. Mnconywa is talking about, balancing and courageous conversations. You also sit in boards, you've been an auditor, you know, in the profession, you sit in the ethics committee of UJ. Tell us, unpack this courageous conversation that Ms. Mnconywa is talking about, if you were to uphold as an internal audit, as a leader, when it comes to ethical leadership.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for the question. So with courageous conversations, and what I like is that every organization has policies and procedures. There are guidelines of how we need to carry ourselves. However, through actions, sometimes we don't comply with that. And if you're now in a board where now you are reviewing, let's say there's a project that you need to review or something that you need to approve, what is important for you to have that courageous conversation is for you to be well informed, for you to know those policies and know the standards, so that when you raise and you see this is an error or this is not in order, you'll be able to have courageous conversations from fact purposes, where you can say, I'm willing to debate and justify my argument because I have facts. Yes, sometimes the right on others might be different. So if my right might not be your right, as I've explained earlier in terms of the theoretical frameworks, but as internal auditors, we are guided by deontological theory, where we say it does not matter what you subscribe to. Your narrative, your background does not really matter, but we have the policy that guides us on how to carry ourselves. So all of us, irrespective of our spaces, we need to comply with what we have at hand. So if you are part of the committee where you see a dilemma or you see a wrong according to the rules, not according to how you feel at that particular time, or if I have an issue with Ntombi, I would not need to confront her because of how I feel about her, but it's based on the facts. So when you have courageous conversation, I would disagree with respect, of course, and state my facts and saying, this is not it, as per this particular section of this particular policy. And if we need to check and debate further, we can do that. As long as you have facts, you'll be able to stand your ground, you'll be able to be assertive, and any reasonable person can agree with you, because in boards there are cliques as well. And if you need allies within the board, you can have a check-in session before the actual board, if you're picked up into the report, or even the person who gave the report, you can check in with them that I've read this section, and from what I'm reading, this is what I'm picking up. Am I reading it correctly? Because what we see most of the time with the courageous conversation, sometimes people use it as an attack, and they come uninformed in the board meetings or in general meetings because they have an agenda with Vuyokazi. Then you are ready to attack her without any facts. But should Vuyokazi be like that in terms of your personality? And I'm Lethiwe, and I'm dealing with ethical leadership, and I'm embracing ethical leadership. If I pick it up with Vuyokazi, I can also ask for a check-in meeting one-on-one and ask her, are we okay in this particular position or not? But if there's no relationship really that can be worked on within the board, when we get into the boardroom, don't deal with the person, deal with the issue, have a courageous conversation with facts, and you'll be fine. You'll be backed up by, because we have a treasurer who will take notes and people vote in boards. So what is important is that when you have this courageous conversation, ask yourself, is it necessary? Is the time right? And also, how tactful do I need to be when I raise this courageous conversation? Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Vuyokazi, both Ms. Mnconywa and Dr. Lethiwe, they're talking about, I think Ms. Mnconywa is talking about being creative, innovative, which I interpret as agility. Once again, I'm promoting our values, about agility, the way you do things. And also, Dr. Lethiwe is more on the framework. There has to be a framework where we are all, so that there isn't ambiguity or in terms of what is expected of someone, and you are in that space. But before I continue, I want to, there's an interesting question in the chat. So someone is asking, so if internal auditors are auditing ethical culture, what are they auditing? So when you audit ethics, Vuyokazi, what are you auditing exactly? What would you say you look at? There are some interesting answers as well, but I want to hear from you. You have audited ethics before, I'm sure, in your 20 years. So what do you look at exactly when you're auditing ethics?
Thank you, Amanda. Actually, the work of internal audit has evolved. We've moved from transactional-based auditing and worrying about the rand and cents to a point now we're talking governance, we're talking risk, we're talking soft things that we cannot touch and see that are very, very difficult to audit, because how do you audit culture? How do you audit ethics? Because nobody looks unethical by mere, having a look, and nobody, and the culture of the organization is very difficult. You have to live it in it to know, why is this organization having a one culture or there's multiple cultures and subcultures, and what are these cultures? So when we audit culture, when we audit ethics, and we audit culture, and we audit governance, these are all three and things that underpins governance. That's corporate governance. It's all those things. We look at many things. We look at exactly what Dr. Lethiwe spoke about, the frameworks. What is the tone at the top? What unpacks the culture of this organization? What are the values of this organization? What are the policies looking like? What type of management do we have? What type of leadership, even from a board, the kind of board members we have, the caliber. So it is a top-down approach because we always believe that the fish starts to rot at the head. So we look at that. We look at the processes that we have. We look at do people do people get opportunities to raise things? What is the fraud prevention plan looking like of the organization? How is it embedded in the risk management framework, and how is it lived on a daily basis? So definitely there's questionnaires. Organizations, they always have these questionnaires that they always issue every year, like we assess in culture, then they get feedback, they do nothing about it. So we look at that and see how does the organization, after having done all those things, what is the response? What are the programs that are in the organization that promotes this culture that we have defined ourselves as the organization? Because every organization defines its culture. If you're in the public sector, we know service is key. Maybe if you are in Grantfontein, you say time is money. You sell time, you sell quality, you sell image. So it depends. What are you trying to achieve as the organization? So we look at those programs and see how effective are those programs. And again, how does the organization account back to the board and its committees? How are the committees looking like? What are the terms of reference of those committees? How are those committees kind of a skills mix in that committee? Will they be able to? So we look at a lot of things, unfortunately, because it's not something that it's not like an asset you can physically verify for accuracy, completeness, and validity. No, it's all these other things and the behavioral patterns that Ms. Mnconywa spoke about. The incidents, we look at the fraud register or the incident. If there's a lot of fraud incidences in this organization and perpetrated by the people or the personnel, that also talks to the kind of culture that is in that organization. You look at grievances, grievances that are lodged by employees against their own managers. So all those things, from HR to risk management to a lot of things, we look at that.
I'm thinking, you said after all these frameworks that you and Dr. Lethiwe are talking about, so we've issued the staff surveys, we have the values, on the walls, but then once you hear or get those surveys, what do you do thereafter? You said that's what you look at. Now, Ms. Mnconywa, as boards and audit committees, I know in boards there will be some subcommittees, ethics committee. Are these things that you look at as well to see that whatever was not right is actually being corrected by those who do the day-to-day? Are these frameworks, these policies, things that we look at as boards and audit committees in terms of ethics?
Yes, Amanda. That is actually the responsibility of the board. So we approve those frameworks, and then management then will develop the plan to implement. So the implementation plan, and so then the reporting then that comes up quarterly after that then needs to talk to that plan. So the board then, where we need not to drop the ball is on ensuring that once that framework has been approved, the implementation plan has been drawn and it is kind of reported to. So when there are surveys that come up, so you find out that so the surveys, because then it is management that deal with the surveys. So they will distribute the surveys to whoever they want to distribute to, and then compile the report and then bring the report to us. So that's where then you'll find out that we'll use internal audit to verify the validity of that whole process. Because then remember then what you will note as the board is that, or you'll only identify an issue when there's a report, when there was a report that came up. And when you're thinking about that report, it actually does not align with the results of the survey. And you're like, but then there's misalignment here. And then that's why then you're able to identify an issue that actually management are sort of playing a game with us. So that's why really the assurance by internal audit, that trust needs to be strong with internal audit. We rely kind of like fully on internal audit to validate every report that comes from from management to us, because it might take time before we are able to identify that there's an issue, because we just depend on the documents quarterly, and so time might have lapsed. So internal audit, ethics, it's very critical. There's still a long way to go for internal auditors. So this job is not going to end anytime soon. So we really need you in that space. Thanks.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear that you are still needed for judgment. I was reading about, in fact, in the previous webinar, we spoke about the technologies. And I was reading as I was researching for this ethical leadership topic, you know, we going towards, in fact, we are using AI as one of our audit tools, but then they also there can be some ethical dilemmas in there, in that the tool that you are using can also be biased. You know, as an example, you use this AI for sampling, and it's sort of, I suppose because of the programming, gives you a certain demographic of your sample, you know, and you end up investigating or over auditing a certain, you know, and leaving others where there could be issues as well. So I'm happy to hear that, you know, we still need us, even you know, when we have tools, you still need us for that professional judgment. There is a question, Dr. Lethiwe, on the charts that says, is there a difference between fraud-related issues and ethics-related issues within a company? Is it proper basically to have one department that deals with fraud and ethics, or should these two be separated? We're running out of time.
Thank you so much for the question, Amanda. I think it all depends on the resources the organization has. If it's a large organization and you might have a lot of incidents, maybe because of capacity, you'd want to separate that. But you'd find in one incident that it's fraud and ethical issue in one incident. So it's a matter of, again, applying professional judgment and being skeptical, because there can be an issue that's only is unethical, but is not really intended in terms of fraud. But you might also have an issue where it has fraud and ethical implications. So it's a matter of capacity and resources and the size of your organization. So there's no one size fits all in terms of how you set up your auditing function. And also remember that the auditing functions can either be in-housed or outsourced. So if it's outsourced, you might have the same organization doing both the audits where they look at ethical issues and fraud. But remember, as auditors, when we come in and audit, we're not looking for the red flags. We are here to check the processes and give assurance and also make recommendations. But we also have fraud investigators who, after we've picked up red flags, we can invite them and say, now you have a mandate, we have an issue that we've identified, please investigate further and identify the particular issues we have relating to fraud. So it's very diverse, it's broad, unless if you have that capacity, you can have separate or you can combine. So it also is subjective, it depends on the circumstances. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We have 4 minutes left, Vuyokazi. But as I said earlier when I was introducing you to the audience, you have a diverse experience over 20 years, in the profession. And like I said, you've seen it all. Here's an internal auditor that has just started or even has just a few working years experience. One thing for sure, they are going to meet an ethical dilemma. It's certain. How do they deal with it? They will meet at some point a manager, an executive that says, look, can you not take this finding out really now? What do they do? How did you do? What did you say to internal auditors? Because you are sure to meet something like that in some form. What would you say as a parting shot?
Definitely, it's the life of an auditor. If you have never dealt with an ethical dilemma, then you don't have experience in auditing. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's no. It's so sad that when you are at university, nothing prepares you for the real world. For instance, the issue of ethics, the issue of governance, and in that detail is never really something that you really taught. So you start to see everything when you get into an organization, then you start to see the real life now. That is not about the theory that you've studied. What we do as CAs, because we know that we onboard people from different levels, definitely there must be guidelines, because I speak like this, I can stand up to an audit committee member, a board member, but because of experience, and resilience is something that you acquire and you learn. Yes, because what makes you stand out as an internal auditor is emotional intelligence. Separate yourself from the issue, and don't be a thermometer, but don't reflect what your emotions are. And also be resilient, because you will be attacked. And again, then it means that as a leader in internal audit, I must create an enabling platform, enabling environment for my team members to come to me. Firstly, I must make sure that the policies and the frameworks and everything that can be read and understood is there. I take them for training. We normally take, we have a program that we have in my organization of all auditors that are new. If you're less than 5 years experience, we take you for coaching. We take you for ethics, So there's a ethics course that we do with the Ethics Institute, so that you can understand, because that's what we do. There's also another course that we have in-house, emotional intelligence. So that also helps so that you understand that it's not about you. So even if you remove yourself, this client would have had a problem with this finding. So it's not about you. So, and again, I think what is important is that when you as a leader, you become empathetic, you'd be shocked at how people that report to you see how you carry yourself. When they say a child and a parent is a monkey see, monkey do, they're exactly that. that they look at you, they look at you and see how you stand up to your peers. Exactly, how you stand up to the board. That's why I always believe that you always prepare this layer for the next level.
Yes,
So it means that
yes.
as I go to the board meetings, as I go to Exco, I take one of the people with, so they can see, they
The
understand and
interaction,
navigate.
yes.
Yes. So and also I must be the person that they know that I will always have their support. Unfortunately, I always support my people before I can even hear the facts. I'll go back and talk to my person. So I will definitely speak to my auditor and be all angry. But when I come to you, I'm representing my auditor, and my auditor is right. So I always make sure that I support them. They have confidence in me, so that when they go there, they cannot be bullied, because I tell them that you will be bullied whether you like or not. Resilience is key. Stand up for yourself, and please make sure that you understand the business that you're auditing, because there's nothing as embarrassing as not understanding what you're trying to audit, and now you come up with the all wrong facts. So they know that they must always invest in their knowledge. I will support them. They know what is right, their courses and everything else, but I'll be supportive.
Okay, competence, courage, and training, you say.
And resilience, yes.
Yeah, and resilience, yes. Ms. Mnconywa, how can internal audit support you? What do you wish internal audit would do? When you look with your experience, and if you were to give us a secret, something as internal auditors that would be of assistance to you, what would it be? What can we do better as a collective of internal auditors to serve boards and audit committees better?
Thank you, Amanda. I think really for me, when you're looking at internal audit, like so if you're coming from the finance space, like as chartered accountants, we sort of kind of like know what we would to expect. But it's like it's that thing that I don't know how to express it, but it's that thing that's gonna bring that wow. So when you're bringing this assurance, the work, the reports, so they not be, yes, you can't change how you report, but it's kind of like we know what's going to come up from the report. It's a we know. We can just scroll through. And when we scroll through, we can end up missing things, key things. So can internal auditors, whilst they have their own approach of doing the work, and also the reporting, the way of reporting, the structure of reporting as SNG Grant Thornton, but also find that creativity that separates them from the other internal auditors, so that then when we're looking at this report, you're like, oh, wow, this is impressive. This is like, I never thought about this. So it's like kind of allowing yourselves as the team to unfold as you understand the organization, the business that you are auditing. So whilst not going away from what is expected from you as internal auditors, but really kind of being into this thing that you are doing and allowing yourselves to grow as internal auditors to this organization and add value to this organization. Remember, just maybe that the last thing that I always I like from the clues, the success clues by Steve Jobs, where he says that we sell dreams, we're not selling products. So clients don't know what they want from the service that you provide, because they don't know what is possible. So they rely on the team's creativity. So as the businesses that we, or the organizations that we are the boards for, they care about their visions and their mission. And so then a successful internal auditor then helps the clients achieve their mission, and in doing so, realize their own. So that will be my parting words. Thanks.
Wow, this is such an interesting topic for me, and I think it's big, but we've run out of time. And I want to thank you, ladies, for your insights. I've taken out of this conversation the need to be agile. I think you emphasized that, Ms. Mnconywa, you are tired of the policies not signed off. You want something else. You've seen that in all audit reports. Let's bring value, value to organizations. And Dr. Lethiwe spoke about trust and knowing your stakeholders. And Vuyokazi, throughout her talk today, has been talking about being courageous and being competent. You cannot audit what you don't know. And the organization also needs to be supportive, an environment that will allow actually internal audit to have to lead ethically. I am so grateful that you came. I thank you. Really, it was an insightful session. And please, to the audience, we have SHEroes on LinkedIn. Follow us. We will have another interesting topic and bring other people to come and discuss these topics. Once again, thank you very much. And all of you, may you have a lovely day further. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amanda and the colleagues.